And last but not least, he has been the Doctor. In some of your minds, he may well still be the Doctor. It's Sylvester McCoy.
Hello up the back.
Well, I haven't really seen anything.
Do you get
except for
nosebleeds?
the short part where he shows up in the
Perfect.
movie. Yeah, that.
Well, yes, it shows only a room, I think.
Hello, Tessie.
Lady.
Afternoon. Okay, what's
But,
happening?
Paddy, what do we do? I'm just going to run round the back with this mic to my other assistant. I've got assistants now, it's brilliant. Oh.
At least
I'm not going to run away, I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
Just go off a minute. Come round.
I don't think I could find irking.
If you wish, I'll translate what he says.
This is most satisfactory.
He's easily pleased.
What's happening?
Q&A. Oh, we asked them questions. What? Yes.
All right.
Sylvester, what have you been up to?
I've been up to 5'6", and I'm shrinking.
Inside leg 29 inches.
Well, it's a question right here on the front row. I can do this.
Oh.
Who's running
Is he
this?
allowed to regenerate 13 times that you're going to do it so he's going to get extra lives? We don't know, we just read the lines.
You're the expert.
Oh, there's a guy there, hand up.
You can't hear us!
Beam me up, Scotty.
Hello, hello.
I didn't do that.
Can you hear us at the back? Yeah.
No, they
Wow,
can't.
there's loads. And still they're coming in.
One person can hear us at the back. It's the Misterons, wrong show.
Sounds more like
You're
clanging.
only here to get pain in your ears.
Who else has got a question?
That man there.
This one's for Ace. Do you ever see yourself coming back from the modern Doctor Who?
Did you hear that? It's a question for Ace. And does Ace ever see herself coming back in the modern Who? That would be nice, wouldn't it? Be great. So far, no sign of it, but I'd like to find out what happened to Ace after she went off through the bush with the Doctor in Survival.
Oh, well, I can't remember what we did out when we went through the bush. Actually, I can remember, but I'm not telling.
So yeah, I'd love to. Write to Stephen Moffat, I think that's the answer.
This is for Sylvester and Sophie. You two were obviously in the show when the show got cancelled. Do you think there's ever been any stigma associated with your characters because of that?
Yes, I think, I always blame myself. I was the man that killed off Doctor Who. But in fact, we didn't. We kept it alive, Sophie and I, because the first thing we did was we got some fans together and we went to their local toilet in their house and we recorded a Big Finish, an early Big Finish. So we kept Doctor Who alive against all the odds. And people said, it'll never come back, it'll never come back. And we said, it will, it has to. Because it was so mad to take it off in the first place. Anyway, we were right, weren't we, Sophie?
Yes.
So,
Well,
no
it's certainly
stigma.
still alive because I'm doing a Big Finish on Monday.
You do on your hands and knees.
Not necessarily, no. I've grown up a bit since then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do it quickly, don't ask us. Get them doing it. Snap, snap, quick, quick, quick.
I've got a question for Sylvester. If you could have played anyone else in Doctor Who would you have played?
Ace. Well, actually, I did play Ace with my spoons. I used to play him over her, you see, so I played this. Technically, she became a musical instrument, and I was playing her.
And we did swap costumes once for a photo thing.
Oh, we did, yeah. Yeah. I had to give it back. I didn't really want to.
This is a question for K9. K9?
Yes.
Have you got any stories about Sarah Jane?
About Sarah Jane?
Well, I know, apart from the fact that Sarah Jane was absolutely lovely. In fact, she was my next door neighbour virtually in West London. We lived only about a quarter of a mile from each other, and we were constantly meeting in the village street between us. It was lovely. No, it was fantastic to have worked with Liz. In fact, of course, did you see her husband? Yes. Yeah, on last weekend, on Saturday, playing the tramp, Brian Miller. There you go. No, it was lovely. And what I enjoyed enormously was the great rivalry between Kate Nine and Mr. Smith. I usually won, which was nice. It was great. Thanks for the question.
Can I just add chuck in another K9 and Liz anecdote here, because when I went down with the dog, because he's over in our, I won't see him later, he's where we are, around there somewhere or other, for school reunion. And I went down just for one day to Cardiff, and Liz greeted me like a long lost brother and said, "Thank heaven, somebody I know." Everybody else in the team is completely different.
Question for the whole panel, if I can. If you had to pick one story, TV or Big Finish as your favourite and to recommend to people to get into Doctor Who, what would you choose for everyone? Yeah, thank you.
I would straight away, I would say the Glorious Revolution that I do with Patrick, because normally Jamie arrives in a spaceship or space station with Patrick and he knows what he's talking about. In the Glorious Revolution, they arrive in London at the time of James II. So it's Jamie's time and he knows what he's talking about. So this time he can actually tell the Doctor what to do and what not to do. And there's one big scene where we're arguing about history. And so I had to argue with myself in the booth. And that's how I do it. In one page, I just do the Doctor, Jamie, Doctor, Jamie, Jamie, Doctor. So the Glorious Revolution for me.
Is that Big Finish?
It's Big Finish, yeah.
Oh, right.
It was my second story, yeah.
You play both parts?
Yeah.
Wow.
I could never remember what the titles of the stories are. I mean, no, it was terrible. I remember a certain actor I worked with. He used to wear a big scarf. I can't think of his name. Whatever. But I know that he always filleted his scripts. His scripts were very, very thin, because those were the only pages that had his lines on. Didn't care about anybody else's, just did his own lines from his own script. Very thin. Everybody else came with scripts about that thick. And I sort of waded through a little bit. What was quite nice for me, of course, was that I didn't have to learn anything, because I could just read it straight off and nobody saw me. It was great fun.
You didn't learn it anyway. You were in a boot, or you were even inside that dog.
No, I would. Oh no,
Inside the dog.
You never learned anything. You sat in an armchair and read it.
Oh, I sat in an well, they made a special room for me. It was lovely.
You had a penthouse suite to do this.
Yes.
Even Michael, man, he found
Big
it
sofa, glass of claret next door to me. It was wonderful. Great fun. Good stuff, voiceovers.
This is to
Well,
Sylvester.
people tell me Death in the Family for Big Finish is a very good one, and Afterlife as well. And then from the TV series, well, they were all great to do, weren't they? But I think the best story as far as Ace is concerned is probably The Curse of Fenric, where she gets betrayed by the Doctor.
Oh, classic.
And that's when he turned out to be a bit nasty for the first time, really. And that was something you wanted to do, wasn't it? To be a bit more...
Well, darker and more mysterious and dangerous. Yeah, I agree with everything Sophie said. Because it's always wiser, I discovered very early on. So, that guy Ray was going to ask a question.
This is for Sylvester. Do you wish you got to use a sonic screwdriver? Or...
Can't hear you, could you speak
I said,
up?
this is for Sylvester. Do you wish you'd gone to use a sonic screwdriver? Or do you think the new Doctors are too reliant on it?
No, I'm glad I didn't have a sonic screwdriver, actually. Although I did technically in the the Sylvester McCoy and Paul McGann film. I did technically have one there, and I didn't know how to use it. And if you look at that, you'll see it's pixelated a bit. That's because I've got it back to front. I was pointing in the wrong direction. But I was happy that I didn't have it, because Jonathan Turner was right. He said it was too easy for the writers to get the Doctor out of trouble. All he does is just take, you know, his sonic screwdriver out and suddenly... So the writers had to use their imagination on how to get us out. I think that was better.
Hello, this is a question for John, K9. Do you think K9 will come back in the modern Doctor Who?
This is an improbability. I must wait and see. I am always the last to know.
That's true. No, actually, I know. Operating the dog first before John. I phoned him up and said, "John, do you know you're back in it?" No.
This is a...
Hello again.
It's a flutterby.
All right. This is a question for Sylvester. Sorry about that. This is a question for Sylvester. Which side of your Doctor do you prefer the most? The funny and funny and comical? Oh God, I hope not. The funny or comical side, or the dark and serious one?
Well, I like both sides mixed up together, because that's the tension between the two, and it's much more fun as an actor trying to juggle all those, you know, kind of facets at the same time. Not the whole mix. You know, going from one to the other quickly. It's great fun.
Sylvester, I was in the United States last year doing a convention, and there was a panel of 9 or 10 of us, and one of the questions was, if you didn't work with your doctor, which doctor would you like to work with? And all of us said, you. Everybody said Sylvester McCoy.
I was thinking chaps. And I said, so how much have I got to pay each one of you again?
$100.
Oh, $100, okay.
But I said, if I worked with you, I said, we'd never get any work done. We'd just be giggling and fooling
We'd just laugh.
We'd just laughing at it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello again. Hi, Sophie. This question's for all of you. Have you watched any of the modern Doctor Who, so post 2005? How much have you watched? And if you have, which episode do you think is your favourite out of them all?
Well, I mean, I've watched, you know, bits of each Doctor. Christopher Eccleston I watched quite a lot of at the beginning. I remember the one I liked really was the one with Zoe Wanamaker, when she'd had the facelift, Beyond Facelifts. I thought that was the funniest thing, and a great satire on our day and age. I love that character. I like those stories around that they were really good. And, I must say I enjoyed this new one. He's got a funny accent. I thought he was rather good. David was terrific as well. But then when I heard they were going to cast a 12-year-old, I was a bit upset. But that 12-year-old came along, it was just stunning. I mean, you know, he was just amazing. I met him recently, we did the Five-ish Doctors reboot. And I met him when we were filming that. Thank you. And he's just like a big Afghan hound. You know, a big puppy, he comes up, running up to you, with his tail wagging, and he puts his arms out on your shoulder, and he licks your face. And he's Matt Smith, he's just the most delightful young man. He's just great fun. I like him very much.
In answer to your question, yes, yes, blink.
What was the question?
I saw a lot of Matt Smith's, because I love the Matt Smith character with his bow tie and doing a lot of sort of, he'd said Patrick Troughton was his favourite Doctor, and we'd watched a lot of Patrick stuff, so I love the hand movements. I missed a lot of David Tennant's because I was doing a stage play and then straight to pantomime, and on Saturday evening you're doing a show, and I don't like having a TV set in my dressing room. you know, I like to go and concentrate. Otherwise, something's coming up. Oh, the murderer! Who the murderer is? Oh, I'm on stage now, and you never find out who the murderer was. So, but of course, Capaldi, I was hoping for an older Doctor, and I liked what I saw with Capaldi.
But it's interesting. I watched obviously school reunion with David, because it was quite amazing. People came up to me and said, "What was it like working with him?" I said, "Well, I don't know, because I was in a little tiny studio in London just doing the lines."
With your claret?
With my claret, yes, on my big sofa. And they just stitched the lines into the dialogue. And here he is, welcoming K-9 like an old friend. And here's K-9 wagging his tail like crazy. And I hadn't a clue. And I only met him later on at a convention, much like this. You know, and he seemed quite nice. He seemed rather good. But what impresses me so much about the modern Doctors, particularly David and Matt Smith, the energy it must take, and equally the newest Doctor that's cast, remember, is having to carry the whole weight of all the Doctors there have ever been. So Doctor number 13 has got 12 Doctors on his back, and Peter Capaldi already has got 11 Doctors on his back, and we'll see where he goes. Very interesting.
If I can just chuck in a 10p worth here, because yes, I worked on the new series, as of course did John, albeit only in school reunion really. But the funny thing, I've been mentioning the business of Matt Smith and David Tennant rushing up and down. Somebody said, well, is K9 coming back? Somebody's already asked that, coming back into the new series. The thing is, he could never keep up with Matt Smith and David Tennant. I mean, racing, the dog will do about 5 miles an hour, 8.
Well, I'm not a lead character, I'm on a lead.
Yeah, we had this trouble with doing Sarah Jane, actually, with the kids racing down the school corridors, and the dog's never going to keep up with them, actually. And the other thing, I'll just tell you a little secret. Actually, John now doesn't, unfortunately, come on location with it, which is a great shame. Because, you know, you can ad-lib and keep... No, it's all scripted. I do the lines on site. I mean, I'm only saying sort of, affirmative messages, and then John has to go them over again, sort of. So I do get a little bit in there, but it never gets out on screen.
Because what you do miss by having to do things feed in, you miss a live dynamic. When you're actually working on a studio floor or working in cameras, there is something live that actually is going on. There's a bounce that you can't really get feeding things in from the sidelines, as I now tend to do.
Sylvester, when you did The Hobbit, was it Ian McKellen that came up to you and said, "Oh, thank goodness, a human being at last"?
Yes, I don't know. I mean, I informed him I was from Gallifrey. Yeah, well, that was because of green screen.
That's right, yeah.
When Ian was working with the dwarfs, he was in one side of the studio, which is miles down there, with little photographs and lights of each dwarf and Martin speaking. And then in his ear he could hear their words, and he had to look at the photographs when the light went on, and he did this for months. When the first time he did it, he cried. He said, "Oh, I've been an actor for all these years. This is not acting, oh." And then when I arrived, he said, "Oh, thank God you're here." Which was quite pleased, because every time I worked with him in King Lear, I kept thinking, thank God, I wish he would get off the stage, take his spoons and leave. I want to die gloriously. Anyway, now he was pleased to see me when I arrived, because we were acting together. As you said, John, it's that kind of thing that of being with somebody.
Because I'd heard that story, I didn't know if it was true or not.
Well, no, it was there. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's happy.
There's always something better about, you know, there's magic that happens when 2 people get together, or 3, 4. It's a bit like that.
Again, I can tell you.
That's how life happens,
yeah.
I think, yes.
It's like the voiceovers that, because I do animation, and some of them, you just go in a booth and you have somebody's lines in your ear and you just have to copy what they say but in a different accent.
Do you have any claret?
No, I don't have claret actually. No, sadly. Herbal tea, me. But then there's things like Dennis the Menace, which I did, and Treefu Tom, and that's brilliant because there's 4 or 5 actors all together in the booth, and you bounce off each other, and Treefu Tom I did with David Tennant was my assistant, if you like, and that was brilliant because we were standing next to each other, and I was going to say something happens, but that sounds that's wishful thinking.
But it's certainly like the big finishes. It's what is amazing for me is now to find myself working with Tom and Louise or Lala. And, it's time travel. I'm taken right back to the time that we originally worked together. The same vibes, the same feel, and everything sort of works. It's fabulous.
It was certainly different when you were in the studios back in Tom Baker days, because John he'd been in his little tent with his glass of claret and microphone and things. But the banter that used to go on between Tom and John, most of it's unprintable, actually, but never got on to tape, unfortunately. But yes, that was live. It just doesn't happen these days.
We were fortunate to have sets, talking about green screen, I feel sorry for younger actors now. We had a proper set, whereas now they just stand in front of a green screen, which could be the Houses of Parliament or the River Thames or whatever. If we shot in the Thames, we actually shot on the River Thames. You get the atmosphere of it.
And you were in Parliament, were you? The Houses of Parliament?
We were in the Houses of Parliament,
yes, of course.
Yes.
Just checking.
Hi, this is a question for the greatest Doctor and companion team ever, aka Sylvester and
Patrick
Sophie.
can't be here today, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know that is. Just going back to Ace not getting a proper set, would you ever want to do more adaptations of the New Adventures with the wonderful Lisa Bowman as Bernice Summerfield, in particular set piece, so that Ace does have at least an audio ending?
I mean, I think Ace has had quite a few endings now in Big Finish. The wonderful thing about not being bumped off or married off or blown up or gone to Gallifrey to be a Time Lord or any of those other things is that the possibilities are endless. So in fact, it's worked out brilliantly for me because I get to sort of, however the writer is feeling, they speculate how Ace would have finished up, and I get to go and do that. So actually, I'm really happy, but that's a great idea about that could be another alternative. Because of course with the Big Finish, I have to kind of always read the script and go, right, is this Ace who's gone off with Hex and who's older, wiser, telling him what to do? Or is this Ace who's blowing up stuff in Battlefield and, back to the series? Or is this, there's several different strands now to Ace's character, and I love that. It's great to be able to play all of them.
Out of all of you, who is your favourite villain or monster?
How can one have a favourite villain? Is it not a contradiction in terms? The Master was he frightened the life out of me. And that was before he even put on the costume. He was a scary man. The Master, I think, is pretty, kind of dangerous because he's very much like the Doctor. That makes him much more dangerous than obvious monsters like Daleks and Cybermen. You know they're bad, but this guy is just evil.
Well, when I was growing up, my mum stopped me watching Doctor Who because I got nightmares about Cybermen. It must have been around Tomb of the Cybermen time. I'd always been a bit scared of them. And then I remember going to one of my first conventions and seeing somebody dressed up as a Cyberman, and still that kind of slight fear was there. It was very bizarre. So for me, to work on a Cyberman story was amazing because, well, I completely got over my fear, partly because Gary Downey, who was the production manager, had gone through all the casting books because Cybermen had to be very tall and kind of quite muscly to fit nicely into those costumes and to be a bit imposing. So he thought, right, where can we get the best extras for going in the Cybermen costumes? And so he picked a model agency, and so all the Cybermen were these sort of over 6'2" male models. So when they took their helmets off, I just used to sit around
swooning.
Yeah. So I completely got over my fear of the Cybermen.
It's always been Cybermen for me because they're always much taller than us. Which everybody's taller than us.
They are rather nasty. Very much bigger than me. Besides, most of the time when I was rehearsing in the studios playing K9, I could only see actors at knee level. Because I was running around being K9 on the studio, on the rehearsal room floor.
That's actually true.
Yep, absolutely true. One day there was a planet that was a bit too big or too swampy for K9 to go in, so they gave me a real standing up part instead, which was rather nice, except I was sitting down.
If he was a pirate and he had a polyphase anatomy, that would be a parrot.
Yes, it was. It was a parrot.
That's what it was, yes.
Polly parrot.
Yes. Very good.
Polly parrot peck.
Don't go on for me, do you know, to build the thing, so we're not phased by them. I have to say, actually, mentioning Cybermen, fun enough, I always found the most frightening ones, the very original ones with the stocking masks, not the solid. They were more frightening, actually. Just tell you go back to hell, they're just helmet on.
I think because they are humanoid as well, so you expect them to be like human.
It was called cheap, actually, but it was cheaper to make that than it was to make the solid.
But I thought it was so much more effective because the mouth kind of clicked open, and then that sound came out, and then, I mean, we were all a lot younger, obviously, but I thought the early ones were much more frightening.
We've got one last question, and it's this young guy down here. He's been holding his hand up for like 15 minutes.
This is for Sylvester. What is the craziest thing you've signed?
The craziest thing? Oh my goodness gracious me. The what? In the 60s? I signed things in the 60s? I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, the craziest thing? I suppose a very crazy person, really. I've signed people who are a bit balmy. Sign this, please. That was crazy.
Am I allowed to answer the question?
Yes, and me too.
Oh, thank you. Well, once years ago I was doing a convention and they were having a charity auction, and somebody came running into the green room and said, "We've run out of items to auction, so can we have something?" And I was eating a cheese roll, and I sort of jokingly said, "Oh, well, you can have this." So he snatched the cheese roll from me, and they auctioned it, and the guy came up to me afterwards, and I signed the cheese roll. But then the following morning, he came up to me a bit sheepishly, and I said, "Ah, you're the guy who I signed the cheese roll for?" And he said, "Yeah, but I had a few too many beers last night, and I got really hungry, so I ate it. Can I have another one?" So I signed him a bit of paper that time.
You did a striptease once for charity, and a doctor. Yeah, but the silliest thing I've ever signed was a woman's leg. She said, "Will you come and," she raised her skirt, "will you sign," you know. So I signed my full name, Frazer Simpson Frederick Horatio, Willoughby, Farquhar, and Hines.
Yes, I remember.
I signed someone's arm and they went away immediately and had it tattooed.
Well, that's right. This is what happened to me. I was in St. Louis, I think, in Missouri, and a girl came up and wanted a part of her body signed, which I duly obliged, and she did then have it tattooed on. So she's still walking around with my signature unless she's had it erased. But the worst thing I've ever had to sign was when I was playing Bungle Bear. And I was signing autographs in a bear costume with bear paws. And I was asked to sign a small piece of fabric sticking plaster that some child had got on his arm. And if you could imagine signing a legible name with a stumpy pen on that, I think just a little mark worked.
That's what giants do, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're difficult with bears, yes, difficult with bears. I was the original Bungle Bear in a thing called Rainbow.
Learned something new now, haven't you?
Yes.
I did a rainbow. I wonder whether it was with you.
I went, of course, I've played all sorts of wonderful, lovely things in my career, but didn't expect to be playing a bear. And I went to RADA, of course, and do you remember an actor called Wilfred Hyde White? Lovely old actor, he said, I went to RADA and I learned two things. One, I couldn't act. Two, it didn't matter. And he always played Wilfred Hyde White.
Alright folks, that's all we've got time for, sadly. You guys have been amazing. Please thank our panel.
Thank you for coming.